Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Casting Seeds. I'm Savannah, your host.
Jeremiah, your co-host.
And you're listening to the only holistic health podcast that uses God's singular truth to give you individualized discernment. So this week's episode is going to be a short and sweet little episode because if you guys listened to last week's episode, you know that we've had a lot of family health things going on. Also, Jeremiah and I have been going through crazy health things, and we also just did a really big interview with Chef James Berry from Pluck, and that's going to be rolling out the next few weeks as well because our 1 hour interview got turned into 2. He and I just were really kindred spirits, and we could not stop casually chatting, and he's like really excited to come back. So you
guys sounded great from the other room.
It was
just listening to you guys talk. It was fun.
I literally felt like I was just talking to like an old friend. So like-minded. And also he and his family are not saved. So it was just really wonderful to speak to people who genuinely have a heart for holistic health and also really do genuinely love God's creation. But obviously they don't worship Creator. So be praying for them in that aspect, of course, but also for them because they just had a big loss, which he spoke about on my podcast about losing his dad 2 weeks ago. So by the time this podcast comes out, it will be 3 weeks. But all in all, it was a really huge blessing to be able to speak to him, to learn about Pluck and talk about agriculture and holistic health and what that means as a family unit for him and his family. And it's just so interesting seeing how many people really do crave Christ's guidance for creation and what God has set up. And that's why he said he respects religion a lot. He didn't say which one specifically, but he is on a lot of Christian podcasts. So I do know that he does respect Christianity a lot. So please be praying for him and his family.
Yeah. And then I also had a pretty big interview with the company, potential job opportunity that may be coming our direction. So this past week was pretty intense between Savannah sleeping at the hospital and me studying and everything, and then still editing podcasts and doing interviews. Yeah. It's been intense.
And I'm working full time as well. Yeah. So, which has also been a huge blessing. I know that people have been praying for me to get more clients, and I would love to get more online clients. So with that, thank you everyone for your prayers. And also, too, you guys have really been liking the Biblical Herb series, which has been such a huge blessing. Jeremiah and I, though, have to do a ton of research for each episode. And because we have not recorded in bulk lately, we are now recording week to week right now. So that's why we're just going to do a short and sweet little family update just so that you guys do have something to listen to this week and so that I can teach you guys a little bit more about how we're doing with Candida, what I've done to help my mom with cancer and with her cancer removal and how I supported her. So if any of you guys have any family members with cancer, this is a great episode for you guys to listen to because Jeremiah and I are going to talk about how we supported her spiritually and my family, how we supported them with food and herbs and supplements, specifically for cancer removal. So I think that will be the base of today. And then I'll throw in a little bit of how we're doing with Candida. Sound good, baby?
Okay. Let's hear it. What did we do food-wise? Let's start with that.
So food-wise, that has kind of been a harder thing for my mom. I would have really loved her to have been very strict with her diet from the moment she found out she had cancer in January. Because if you guys are into holistic health, you already know what you eat and what you do feeds your cancer. So Jeremiah knew that, and even women in my group knew that I really struggled with that. Seeing my mom still drink alcohol, eat tons of sugar and carbohydrates, all the things that basically feed yeast, right? The candida that Jeremiah and I are struggling with actually also feeds cancer and a lot of other diseases as well. So the standard American diet, the SAD diet, really is sad for a reason. And actually, James and I went over that. And
that's going to be fun to hear.
Yeah, we talked about it lightly, you know, what that does. But it was definitely encouraging to feel like I wasn't crazy for making all those suggestions for now. It's month 8 into this year, and my mom found out in January. So for 8 months, I feel like I've been a record on repeat. And I don't know, I feel like that affected you though, Jeremiah, being the spouse of a...
I think the hardest part was like, seeing that you are a holistic health practitioner. And I do witness a lot of people kind of ignore you, even though like they know your practice,
or they'll ask for help and then
not do it,
not like my answer.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that gets frustrating because I feel a little disrespected in that sense.
Yeah.
And
I've noticed people respect me more when they pay me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way it always has been. Everyone's like that. It's like so like if you buy a toy for a child, he's more than likely to break that toy than if you made him earn money to buy that toy for himself.
Yeah.
And he'll take care of that toy.
So true. That's literally what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll like literally have to remind my family sometimes, like, people pay me for this info. People actually listen in each week on a podcast because they're excited to hear like what I have to teach them, or the wisdom that I've learned from other people from on the podcast to talk about. So
yeah, it's
kind of, I mean, I'm sure I'm sure people right now are listening to this and going like, oh yeah, with me and my career, my family sees me the same way. It's just it's so wild. It's like the grass is always greener type of a thing. But when it comes to diet specifically, it's not that, because I think people think like, oh, well, keto is the best thing or veganism is the best thing. Honestly, in general, a keto style life is okay in general, but you can't stay in ketosis and have your body be in ketosis all the time while your body's also fighting cancer. It's very difficult for your body to fight cancer and be in ketosis the whole time. That's why it's suggested to have a lower carbohydrate, right? So lower carbohydrate, lower sugar, no alcohol, no caffeine. I think those are the hardest two for people. Doctors will say you can have a little bit of caffeine, but it's almost like you have to treat it as if you have diabetes and you're pregnant. Like a combination.
Which happens often for women.
Yes. I can never say pregnant. It. If Liz is listening to this, she's going to laugh. Gestational diabetes. Gestational. Oh. I can never say it. It's basically when you start getting type 2 diabetes while you're pregnant.
And then it goes away after.
Yeah, it can. It depends. But that's one of the best. So having a high fiber diet, and that includes like not even eating super carby fruits and vegetables or super high in sugar fruits and vegetables. So it's having more like dark berries, staying away from lentils. And you don't have to be that strict. It's very similar to like the Candida diet that we're on. But you could just start with cutting out gluten, cutting out sugar. Like you have to do one thing at a time. Oh, and dairy. Dairy is people could still try raw dairy, but it's suggested to just cut it out and then slowly phase it back in and only have raw products if you're going to do it. So including butter and cheese, which can be really hard for people and it can be way more expensive. So sometimes it's just suggested to cut it out. So if you're a family member or you are somebody who has cancer, that's what's overall in the holistic healthcare field considered the best diet because it gets the best of both worlds. You are still more ketogenic, right? By eating more meats and healthy meat fats, organ meats. But here's the thing. Most people who do keto, and I mentioned this before in other episodes, they do keto incorrectly. They don't eat nose to tail. They don't eat the proper fat. They don't use tallow in their diet. And they just eat like steaks, which steaks is very small amount of minerals and vitamins for your body, as opposed to eating nose to tail. That's why I love Pluck. Like talking to James yesterday was amazing because we talked about what it means to have all the different types of tastes in your diet and how to add that in. So again, those episodes are going to be amazing for parents, for kids, for people who are sick or who are not sick alike. But that was really hard. The diet part was really hard to get across to my family, and they never did it, ever. Even now and I actually think my mom's surgery, which by the way, went beautifully. The surgery itself, you guys, I know that it was the power of prayer that protected my mom all these months, because it makes no sense. It did grow way bigger because my mom fed the tumor, but the fact that it didn't get to her artery is amazing. It was wrapped around it. And they were able to remove the whole tumor and other stuff around it without having to take out her thyroid, which is a huge blessing. So if you guys were praying for that, thank you so much, because now she gets to keep her thyroid and hopefully retrain it to work properly for her body hormonally. And you guys might be asking too, like, well, how does that happen? And normally it starts with diet. So unless my mom decides to actually fully change her diet and her lifestyle, it could definitely come back. And I do see that happening if she doesn't do this. And we've kind of had those conversations. I don't know if my mom's going to listen to this, and I really pray that she does not get angry. But this is something that Jeremiah and I are also both going through, and that's what we talk about here on this podcast. But so it could definitely come back. James made a great point yesterday. He said if one person's on a special diet in the family, especially if you're married to that person, you do the diet with them to support them, to love on them, to care for them, but you don't bring the things in the house that are going to make you fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Jeremiah and I really struggled with, was going over there and seeing my family constantly bring in stuff that made themselves fail. And we would purposely bring things like Rebel ice cream, right? To help supplement.
Yeah. And lactose free, sugar free.
Yeah. All the things. And we kind of felt a little squashed, but
if Rebel wants to rep us, we are
listen,
down.
Rebel ice cream.
We love Rebel ice cream.
Rebel, you don't pay us, but if you ever want to, you could just pay us an ice cream. Okay. Please, if there's a Rebel rep listening to this.
Right.
Amen.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? Pluck too. We didn't talk about it, but let's do it, James. So yeah, that was probably the biggest thing. The biggest thing overall is diet. Same thing if someone has a goal of weight loss, whatever it is, it always starts with diet. Diet's the first thing. Same thing with our Candida, right? The first thing we had to do was change our diet so that we weren't feeding the Candida. Same thing with my mom, not feeding the cancer. And then after that, then we could take the pills that then kill the biofilm and then kill the yeast and then help discard everything. So for my mom in particular, post-op, which I'm not going to get into how crazy last week was, but basically her surgery went beautifully. 2.5 hours afterwards, my mom started bleeding internally. You could see the distension in her neck. It looked like she was like a swollen frog, and it was terrifying. It was really scary. My mom had to get opened up while awake, and she just got local anesthesia, and her people's hands were inside my mom's neck. A 22-year-old girl saved my mom's life, a 22-year-old doctor, which is amazing. But they also decided to give her like chicken breast as her first meal an hour after surgery in her throat. So somehow, I don't know if they nicked it, I don't know what happened, but her artery started bleeding. So my mom had to have a tube put into her throat while awake. It was really traumatic for her. And then she had to stay in the hospital for 3 nights, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. Or 2.
2.
I stayed.
I was supposed to stay the 3rd night.
That's right. I stayed the 2nd night because my dad was told he couldn't stay with her, which was also really hard because they had to keep going in her throat all night. And yeah, so my clients were, if you guys are listening, I mean, I already told all of them how much I love them and how thankful I am that they were all willing to move their schedules around so I could stay with my mom overnight and be with her through other procedures and stuff. But she's now all glued up, Sweeney Todd style. She literally looks like someone gashed her neck like a Sweeney Todd. And she was over here today at the house, and she'll be back later with some friends. So she's walking around and she's doing great, and her fever is down. So she doesn't have to take antibiotics. But then after this, I'm going to put her on antifungals so that she doesn't. And that's the other thing. If you guys have a family member who has to take a ton of antibiotics for getting a surgery for cancer, make sure afterwards they get put on antifungals. Even if the doctor says, well, you know, that's not really where, I don't care. Make sure you advocate that you get that family member on antifungals. Because the reason why I have had miscarriages, I've had all of those diagnoses from Candida. The reason why I got Candida is from consistent antibiotics, because I was never put on antifungals after the antibiotics. I just want to make that clear.
And the reason I got it is because of you.
Yeah, exactly. But Jeremiah actually helped me make my mom's herbal drink, which Jeremiah you had a really good idea of turning it into a drink and not into medicine.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them why you thought of that?
I notice a lot of people don't like taking medicine, and a lot of natural herbs are bitters, especially the ones that are really healthy for you. Mm-hmm. And I figured it would be easier to consume if we mixed it up a bit with some honey and some cranberry juice and
non-sweetened cranberry.
There's no sugar.
Concentrate. Yeah,
it was clean honey. I do think for kids and people that are not used to this type of lifestyle, that is a great entry.
Yeah, make it like a fun tea.
Yeah, a tea or a drink. I know your dad started drinking it. He likes it.
My dad started taking my mom's medicine.
It's pretty great. And she honestly, she told us today, she's like, it knocks me out.
Yeah.
I feel great.
Yeah.
I'm like, great.
Also too, we prayed and stuff while we were making it. And I do think that type of intention, I mean, there's this lady I want to interview so badly that lives in New Zealand. And I don't know if she's a Christian or not. She kind of posts things that seem kind of like it, and then other things I'm like, huh. But she shows like the power of how water, like when people pray over it or when they just have like intentional speech, how it changes the molecules. Like she's done lab tests to show that even like if you have fluoride full water, and then you pray and ask God.
You said fluoride full of water?
Oh, water full of fluoride.
Some fluoride, huh? You want some water with that?
Delicious. That's pretty much what our California tap water is. It literally smells like chlorine. It's wild. But when you pray and ask God to like remove those things, it actually removes. It removes out of it. Isn't that wild?
It is wild. It's like that experiment on Mythbusters where they do heavy metal and Mozart with the plants.
Yes.
And all the heavy metal plants died.
Well, also, and we've talked about on this podcast too, if you talk to your plants or if you're growing your food, how literally your DNA, when you're touching your plants and your food, it actually changes just like breast milk does for a baby.
Yeah.
It changes the molecules of the plant and the DNA, and it will be like higher protein if you're protein deficient, or higher zinc or higher magnesium, higher copper, whatever it is. Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like God.
I'm still not going to drink your breast milk, but
we'll see. It's okay. It's made for babies. Why would anyway?
I know. I'm done with that milk and honey.
That would be what you focused on that entire thing that I had to say. But yeah, overall, what we made. So Jeremiah had the beautiful idea of turning it into a fun drink, especially because my mom loves cocktails. So I think, for kids or for adults who love drinks, this is the way to go. Or if you love tea, because Jeremiah.
So she cooked down what was the base?
Oh, yeah. So I also posted on my Instagram at holistic_wife. But so the base technically is the tea that we made. And normally I suggest when you're making a tincture, keeping all the herbs separate and then adding them all together, because then you'll know the actual ratio of what you made. We didn't have time for that. So I put, actually, let me read it. I'll read all the herbs. So you guys don't have to go to Instagram. But also follow me on Instagram because then we can become friends, because I love talking to all of you guys. Okay. I cooked down chamomile, moringa leaf, valerian, rose, lavender, hibiscus, comfrey root, skullcap, cranberry, oregano, Oregon grapefruit, calendula, and echinacea. And what I didn't put on Instagram is we actually threw some marijuana in there, because it's known to really help like lower tumors.
Well, it stimulates white blood cell growth.
Yes, which we wanted for my mom. Yeah. But half the things that we put in there were healing for blood, because my mom had a lot of blood loss in the hospital, helped with bone growth and cellular growth. And also some of it is antifungal, antibacterial, antimicrobial, which was really important. And then on top of that, they were sleepy. So it helps my mom rest. So we want her to be able to go to sleep and then have all these herbs help her while she's sleeping, because that's the best time.
That's the nervous system and also the
Cardiovascular.
The heart.
Yeah. So we wanted her to rest and then use it to be able to feel so much better when she wakes up. And I also gave her, by the way, in the hospital, I brought in fresh chamomile, rose, lavender, hibiscus, and skullcap tea. So I brought that in. And by the way, I brought it, quote unquote, for myself. I knew my family was going to drink it, but I didn't even add any honey or any sweetener to it. And the whole room, the whole OR smelled beautiful. And like it just made everybody relax whenever they came into my mom's OR room. And so my mom drank it and she was like, this is so yummy. And it helped her a lot. So that, and by the way, that was the first night she was actually able to sleep through the night, is when I gave her that tea, and I cooked it down really strong.
Nice.
So, so yeah, those are all the herbs. And then I cooked them in like 5 cups, cause it was a big baggie. So 5 to 6 cups of vodka, and I let that boil up, I think for about 30 minutes. I let it cook and then simmer and cook down. And then after that, I removed it, and then I added honey. So I strained it, and you really want to strain and get all of the best juices out of those herbs, because like the part that is like stuck in the herb, that's the strongest. And then I added, how much honey would you say I added?
I would say maybe
2 cups?
No, less.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was less.
I tried to keep it not super sweet, because again, it's still a natural sugar, and I didn't want my mom to be consuming a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And also she doesn't like super sweet drinks.
And this filled, I believe it was 2
16-ounce bottles.
16-ounce bottles.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
Well, no, this was before I added the juice. But so it did half of it, a little more than half of the 16-ounce bottles. So I cooked down the honey for like another 15 minutes until it was like a syrup. Like I want it to be more syrupy. I didn't cook out all of the vodka. I could have, but I wanted it to have a little bit of a punch, because that's how it's distributed as medicine faster to the system.
Yeah.
So
it opens up your gums.
Yeah.
Gets into your blood.
It didn't
brain
taste
barrier.
alcohol-y.
No, not at all.
Like if you tasted it by itself, I couldn't taste it because I can't have any honey right now. But Jeremiah tasted it and he was like, oh, it's just like a sweet, he said it was like a sweet herbal tea.
Yeah.
You could, out of everything I made, you could smell the marijuana the most probably.
Yep.
But it didn't smell like weed.
After it cooled down, I think the smell went away.
Not fully, because Mom could still smell it with ice.
Oh, okay.
But my mom also uses a lot of CBD and that type of medicine, that because it really helped her with her cancer.
Yeah.
Because it's a really great anti-inflammatory, which we've also talked about before. So we cooked down the honey. And again, I don't remember how long. It's just until it was the syrupy consistency that I liked. Made sure that it was in bottles that could handle heat, because I didn't want glass to shatter. And then I filled the rest up with that raw cranberry juice. And I mixed it. I put one in the fridge, and I immediately poured about a cup of it over ice and let the ice melt down into it. So it was kind of watery, and then put more ice. And my mom loved it because it's very flowery. It doesn't taste herbal. It tasted kind of herbal, but it tasted more like flowery cranberry juice. And my mom has been taking it every night, and my dad, who doesn't have cancer, has been drinking it the past few nights, and he said he slept better than ever and he feels super good the next day.
Nice.
So I made it up on the spot just with things that I have. I'm sure there's other really great herbs.
Well, you didn't really make it up because you know what all the herbs do. And then I think one thing you didn't include that was the herbs you selected were cooling herbs also.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You want to explain that? Why we did that?
We did cooling herbs so that way her heart did not pump blood faster, and it also would speed up recovery because your blood will be thicker when your body's cooled.
Yeah.
When your body's hot, it gets thinner.
Exactly. We wanted her blood to coagulate because she had a tube in her throat at home, right? So if she kept bleeding, then they weren't going to pull the blood. They weren't going to pull it out, and they were not going to seal her throat, and she would have had to go back to the OR. So they kind of gave her the weekend. So, yeah, I think that's the main thing we wanted to go over was for people who have cancer who are listening to this, or people who have family members who have cancer. One, it's very easy to get frustrated because you want people to just change their whole lives. And the same way that holistic health is like, it takes time. You can't do everything all at once. Yes, is there some urgency sometimes where it's like, you know what, you're going to change it all at once, but you have to do it with them then. You have to walk them through it and be there.
You have to support them.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have that support, then they're going to fall short.
And I honestly think that's probably where my parents struggle the most, is they don't have the spiritual support unless it's really through like their own family. At church, they don't have an in-depth community, and it's something that we've been encouraging for years. And that was actually one of the main reasons why we left our last church, was to go to my parents' church with them and to help them get into community. But when we saw that they weren't trying to, even when we were encouraging them and trying to ask them to do it, then we knew it was time for us to take a step back and realize that they're grown adults. And it was really hard to do that and give up control in that way. But you know, you reap what you sow. And we had to allow that to happen, which was really hard, especially for me and for Jeremiah being my husband and my leader. You know, it breaks his heart seeing my heart broken. But we're just encouraging them to even try out this new church that we've been going to with us, because they're definitely more inclined to go there, and we want them to go to a more solid church. But I mean, if the church they're going to now is feeding them, that's all we care about. But they need to have community. So the biggest thing, of course, get in the Word, get in prayer, and be in community. But if you have a family member, you are that person, please. The community aspect is really important. And they're the ones who encourage you to be in the Word and to be in prayer.
And if somebody in your family is struggling with cancer or some illness and you want them to change, you can be the start of that change. If you start doing it, you start incorporating it, you stop buying the stuff they like, then they will change with you.
Yeah.
And you got to pray for it. You got to pray for them. You got to pray for yourself, because it's going to be hard.
Yeah. And pray for discernment as to whether or not it's supposed to be you to do it too. Because sometimes there are those people like me. I do this, where I take on way too many people projects, I like to call them, because I love all of my friends and my community so much that I just want to say yes to everything and be that person for everyone, and I'm not their savior. So I have to put my husband first. I have to put ultimately my relationship with Christ first, and also put our family first. And I don't want to all the time.
I'm glad you realize this.
You know I know.
I know you know.
But it's hard for me to say no because I love my community so much.
Yeah. You are a volunteer at heart and a hostess. And it's hard for you to just sit idly by and watch people suffer or watch people hurt themselves.
Oh my gosh, you guys, there was a mouse today.
No, we're not going into this.
No, listen. There was a mouse today at my office. My last client ran over its foot, and I have a video of it. Jeremiah, I have to show you the video of the mouse. It was shaking and convulsing. I wanted to take it home so badly. I called Jeremiah, and one of my closest friends is our vet. And I was literally going to call Chelsea and be like, please help me fix this mouse. And I learned when I looked up vets that they just kill mice. And then Jeremiah said that he was going to do the same. So I let it stay and suffer because there's no way I could have killed it.
It had better odds out there than you bringing it home.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't take it home, because I know it was 100% chance it would have died. But also too, like, now it's suffering maybe. I don't know. And then Jeremiah
there
made
is a happy owl out there.
It's disgusting. I mean,
there's a cat that is so excited. It's God's creation. He created this system.
It makes me really upset. But anyway, it's different when you see the cute little thing suffering, you know? I'll show you the video, Jeremiah. I literally said in the video, my husband's going to be so mad at me if I pick this up. But I didn't touch it because I also was going to see my mom. Anyway, I hope this episode was encouraging to you guys.
All we need is a rabies shot.
I know. It's short and sweet and to the point, but I I want you guys to be encouraged that if your family members also have cancer, please check out mycancerstory.rocks.com.
On Facebook? Oh, .com.
Okay. And on Facebook. But in order to join the Facebook group, you have to get the secret password. I'm not going to say what it is because I want people to actually read the protocol and do their own research. I used this to help heal my cysts in my PCOS. And my mom was on this, and it did help her cancer at the beginning when she was taking it. It actually got rid of some of her cancer, but then she stopped taking it. And then anyway, she was getting it removed. So, but I'm not going to say what it is. I just want you guys to look it up. mycancerstory.rocks.com. And this guy is not paid. He doesn't make money off of anything. He just has an amazing cancer story, and what he did and what he took is very surprising. And I tried it, and Jeremiah and I both saw that I was a lot better and a lot more clear on it. It did made me get really swollen though and gain weight because your body goes into inflammation mode. And I recommend for anyone who has cancer, anyone who's severely sick, please support your liver, gallbladder, and kidneys. Take liver, kidney, and gallbladder support every night.
You should be doing that anyways.
Yeah.
Even if you're eating really bad, do that. If you're drinking alcohol,
if you're alive, you always should.
Yeah.
But
if you're going through a cleanse, do that.
Well, most people do it for only when they're detoxing, and they just detox their liver. They never support it. You guys need to start taking supplements that support it. That means a good magnesium glycinate, and it should be a minimum of 800 milligrams. Really good zinc, also glycinate. Great copper. You should be taking a good vitamin D during the day, and A, K, and D. But specifically at night, you also need to be taking things like milk thistle, dandelion root, just things that support your liver. Support it, not cleanse or detox. Support your liver. Your liver.
I got it.
Yeah, well, I want the people to get it because that's the biggest issue I get. And that's why we talked about cleansing versus detoxing a few episodes ago. So if you guys are confused on that, please go back to the protocol where I explain the difference between cleansing and detoxing. And yeah, this was not an episode that we planned at all. Jeremiah and I kind of sat down. We were like, whoa, how do we explain everything that happened this week? And that's it. So if you guys could please keep praying for our Candida to go away so that we can start trying for kids within the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And be praying for my mom's health, but mostly my mom's spiritual health. I feel like my mom and my dad, if their spiritual health changes, my mom's, it doesn't matter what's going to happen to my mom's health, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for your prayers that have been going on.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your support, your love, and let us know if we could pray for you.
Yeah. Keep messaging us on how we can pray for you guys. I love getting those messages. Jeremiah and I are very intentional about it, and we pray for you weekly, or daily when it is required. But we love you guys, and we're just so thankful for this podcast, and I can't wait for you to hear Chef James' episode next week.
Yeah, it's going to be split up into 2 parts, I think.
Minimum, yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to sit there and listen to this for 2 hours. Well, I mean, I would. It's really good content.
Either way, you guys, we can't wait to see you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Donate if you can so that you can help us support you guys. This is a listener-supported ministry that we do where we share Bibles with the money that's sent in. And we are so thankful because we are all around the world.
Yeah.
Woo!
We recently hit India, so that was amazing. India is a really hard source to get into. And I know a lot of our churches around us are really trying to invest in churches over there in India. So whoever's in India listening to our podcast,
we love you.
Reach out to us.
Yeah.
Talk to us. Tell us how we can help.
Yeah. Actually, anyone from anywhere around the world.
Yeah.
If we can send you Bibles, if we can support you in any way, shape, or form, this is a ministry for Jeremiah and I. If we get any donations, it's going right back out to you guys. It has nothing to do with us. It's not about supporting us financially. It's about supporting you guys. Even if it's donating money so that we can send herbs and supplements to somebody who can't afford it. So we are here to serve you wholeheartedly. That's what this podcast is for. But for the final time, we do love you. I can't wait to share the episodes with you the next few weeks. And Jeremiah and I can catch up on recording. Until then, you guys, We hope you enjoyed learning how to cultivate God's creation from a biblical perspective. Holistic health is to prioritize whole person wellness through Christ. Like and comment on what topics we're casting seeds or casting pearls.
If you found this information provided useful, subscribe to our podcast for future updates, leave a review to help us improve, and share this episode. We would like to remind you before we leave that perfect health cannot be attained in this world.
Only spiritual salvation through sanctification and repentance to God and turning away from sin will give you a perfect body in the kingdom come. Nourish yourself in the Word, in prayer, and in biblical fellowship daily.
Thank you for joining us today, and a special thank you to our listeners for making this podcast possible.
Always praying.
Keep casting seeds.